Greetings and thanks for joining us. It delights my heart to know you are watching. Today, we're going to learn how to work with tables and shapes. Tables constitute a part of our document layout. A table enables us to represent multiple fields of data associated in one way or another. For example, a market list can easily be presented when displayed in a table. Tables are made up of rows and columns. We define a table by giving its number of columns by its number of rows. A 4 by 2 table is represented as 4 times 2, which means a table of 4 columns, 2 rows. Tables are simple to insert and manipulate in word processors. On the other hand, shapes are used to highlight important items to help readers better understand the content of a document. Shapes can be modified after being added by changing features such as color and fill options. Before we get onto our PC, we expect that by now you should be acquainted with creating documents up to a level where you comfortably enter text using your keyboard, edit with the help of a mouse, format using tools, and you are able to work with sections, headers, and footers. If you missed out on any of these lessons, kindly use the links in the video description below and follow our lessons on these topics. Without any waste of time, let's get onto our PC and see how to work with tables and shapes. On our PC, this is a Word document that is opened. Tables will permit us to be able to arrange our market list very well. Let's look at this. Look at this data which I've prepared on our Word document. This is a market list. I had a visitor who came to visit me. And given that I'm from Dub, where we eat the rice, she decided to prepare some rice for me. As a teacher, I needed to have a list of her market items that she will need to buy. She has to present this list orderly because as teachers, we always check the list that is taken to the market before we validate by giving money. But look at what she presented. When you look at this, does it make any sense to you? You agree with me that it's mixed up and does not represent anything serious. If we use tables, we'll be able to organize this list better. Let's go ahead and see how to organize this same list. And at the end, you're going to see how it's going to look. To insert tables, you have to take your insertion point or your blinking cursor to the area where you desire to insert your tables. With your blinking cursor where you desire to insert tables, now go to the Insert tab. The Insert tab is found on your ribbon. Remember, you have other tabs on your ribbon. Go to the Insert tab on your ribbon and click. When you click on the Insert tab, it opens and you have various groups that are available on the Insert tab. On the Insert tab, you have pages. You can insert cover pages, blank pages, and other page breaks. You can insert tables. You can insert illustrations, add-ins, media, links, comments, headers and footers, text and symbols. However, we're interested in inserting tables. Go ahead and click on the table tool. The table tool is found on the Insert tab in the Tables group. When you click on the Insert on the Table tool, you realize that it gives you a drop-down menu. This drop-down menu has grids. These grids can permit you to already insert your table. Now, move with your mouse over this grid and see. When I move with my mouse, you have the table illustration on my document changing. I need a table. You can have a table of 7 by, you can have a table of 4 by 2, meaning 4 columns, 2 rows, or we have a table of 6 by 4, meaning 6 columns, 4 rows. If you desire to insert a table of 6 by 4, then when it is highlighted as such on your grid, you're going to click. When you click, your table will enter. You can as well insert table. If you use this Insert Table option here, it's going to open an Insert Table dialog. On this Insert Table dialog, go ahead and add the number of columns to the desired number that you like. You can add this number up to 10 or any number that you desire. Then go ahead and add also the number of rows that you desire. You have the number of columns, number of rows. You can have other controls like auto feed behavior, the fixed column width, the auto feed to content and other elements and other controls on this dialog. Go ahead and select as you such desire, and at the end of that, if you hit OK, it's going to insert the table that you desire. I'm going to take undo because that's not what I want. We'll go ahead and see other options. Another option is to draw table. If you take this draw table, notice that my mouse pointer now changes into a pen. When it changes into a pen, I can click and drag. If I click and drag, I'll be inserting a table. Now, we're not going to use any of these using the grid lines that are available on our table tool found on the insert tab. Go ahead and highlight as you desire. I'm going to start with a 3x2 table. A 3x2 table means I'm going to have three columns like you can see, and two rows as you can see. On this my table, I'm going to have the first item being the serial number. On this serial number, the next will be the items that I'll desire to buy from the market. Then I'll need also to talk about the quantity of the items that I'll be buying from the market. When I enter the quantity representing the quantity of items that I'll desire to buy from the market, notice that I do not have a space to add the prices. When the space to add the prices is not available, you now realize that we can go ahead and add the columns. To add columns, I will hover. Hover means just take your mouse pointer towards the margin, towards the edge of this other table, and you have a plus sign that will appear. With this plus sign, you can go ahead and add a column. If I click on this plus sign, it will add a column to the right. Otherwise, I can go ahead and highlight this table. I'll take and highlight the last column of this table. I will take my mouse pointer until my mouse pointer will change into this dark pointed arrow that is pointing downwards. If I click, it will select the entire column. I can now right click on this entire column and a side menu would appear. On this menu that appears, I can cut that column, I can copy the column, I can paste in that column, and I can merge, and I have many other options in that column. I can now allow my mouse to rest on the insert option. On the insert option, go ahead and see what you can do. You have various controls that you can perform here. You can insert columns to the left, you can insert columns to the right, you can insert rows above, rows below. We want to insert a column to the right. If I click on insert column to the right, it was going to insert a column to the right. Now, when this column is inserted to the right, you can go ahead and now add what I wanted to add in that column. I wanted to write the price there, and I can go ahead and include the price. Now, when this is all done, I'll now come down onto my serial number. I want my serial number to be smaller than the other spaces. You notice that all the spaces in my table, all the cells in my table are the same width and the same height. That is not what I want. I want the height and the width to be different. I want especially the width of this serial number column to be smaller than the width of items, quantity, and price. This is going to make my table to be more presentable. I'm going to hover with my mouse on the line that separates column 1 from column 2. When I hover with my mouse over that area, you realize that my mouse pointer now changes. It changes into an arrow, a double-headed arrow. This double-headed arrow will permit me to be able to resize the column of my cells. If I click and hold, I can now drag to the left, and I can also drag to the right. Dragging to the left or dragging to the right will permit me to be able to resize as I desire. If I now drag to the left, I can now resize in such a way that the column or the width of my SN column is now smaller. You realize that my items column now is larger, and the cells there will permit me to enter my items without difficulty. However, I realize that the column for prices is all right, and everything is coming together, and it looks the way I wanted it to be. I can go ahead now and increase and include the items I will need to purchase from the market. The serial number, I'll write 1. When I write 1, the item is rice. You realize that the quantity is 5 kilograms, and the price we say 2,000. After entering the first item, I notice that I need to include other items, and the table I inserted does not have enough cells. What am I going to do? Am I going to delete the table and add another and insert another table? No, that's not what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and add rows. When I add rows below the last row, is going to permit me to now have enough rows to include all the items that I desire. You can hover with your mouse on the line, the border of this last row. You realize that the plus sign now appears. With this plus sign, I can click on the plus sign as many times as I desire to include more rows. I can as well highlight the last row. When the last row is highlighted, highlight the last row by taking our mouse pointer to the margin, and when it is pointing at the last row, we click. When we click, the last row will be highlighted. When the last row is highlighted, I will right click on the last row and take insert rows below, because I want to insert rows below this other row. I will now click on it and it will insert a row below. This row will now become the second item, which is my second item is tomatoes. Is that the item? Yes, we have tomatoes. And realize that the quantity, she did not include the quantity for tomatoes. That is already showing you the advantage of using tables. When you use tables, it permits you to be able to analyze and present your data orderly, because without tables, you present your data and you can miss out on certain items. You look at how market list contains items, quantity and price, but for some of the items, he did not include the quantity because she might have forgotten or something came over her mind. How we forgive her for that. Let's go on and see how to include these items now using our table. I'll have tomatoes and I can decide to buy half a basket of tomatoes. Right, that's going to look quite good, and that costs 1,000 francs. Now, with this, I can go ahead and use the same method I used to include more rows. But if my blinking crystal is blinking at the last cell in the table, the cell at the bottom right in my table, I can use the tab key. The tab key is found on your keyboard. Let me bring the on-screen keyboard so we can see how this goes on quite well. When my blinking crystal is found in the last cell of my table, I can now press the tab key. This is your tab key. It is found on your keyboard. When you press the tab key is going to insert a row just below the row that you had above, which you can now go ahead and include your items as they are. You now look at your table. You realize that your table now have all the items. We have all the items numbered from 1 to 7. That gives you a clear picture of what you're going to buy from the market. It means that you're going to buy 7 items from the market. That gives you a good idea. We can now go ahead and we format our table the way we want. We can highlight the top row, and if we highlight the top row, we can make it bold such that it should look different from the other ones. It's highlighted now and looks different from the other items. We look at the items on our table. We notice that total is not supposed to have a serial number. Total is also not having quantity. The total is only supposed to give us the total price. Total column from the other columns is no longer appearing. We then highlight. After highlighting, we click, hold and drag. Click in the first cell, drag to the third cell. When you drag to the third cell, you right click. When you right click, the various options again will appear. Go ahead and select merge cells. When we take merge cells, it's going to remove all the other lines that separated the columns from each other. We now see that our total is alone. That shows that it is the last item. We now go for our totals. We also notice that our word processor can enable us to perform calculations. Your word processor will permit you to perform calculations. Notice that when you inserted your table, 2 other new tabs appeared on your ribbon. These tabs are the design tab and the layout tab. On the design tab, you are able to have some other table style options, some table style controls and some border controls. On the layout tab, you have table, you have the draw control, the rows and column controls, merge controls, cell size, alignment and data. Now we're going to go to the new layout tab, the layout tab that appears when you insert tables. On the layout tab, go to the data group. In the data group, you have formula. That formula will permit you to perform calculations when you are working in a table. Now put your mouse cursor where you desire a calculation to give you a result. Now go and click on formula. When you click on formula, the formula dialog will open. When the formula dialog will open, the artificial intelligence of your word processor will identify that you're working in a table and you have data. You have data above the table that you may desire to have a total of it, or you may desire to have a sum of it. It proposes the formula that you want to perform, and it says sum above. When it says sum above, we're going to go ahead and click OK. When we click OK, it gives you the total amount of money. That is 13,000 pounds. That looks quite good. You see, with your table, it makes your data to look presentable. It makes your data to look good. Look at that. Look at the data we have above, and look at what we have done with the data. We've been able to transform this data into something more presentable using just some very simple techniques by inserting tables and working with table. A list like this will be validated. At least it takes care of my wine. Just kidding there. Now, we're going to go ahead and take note of the fact that we can modify our tables. After you have inserted tables, you can modify tables. You can add rows, you can add columns, we can delete rows, we can delete columns, and we can merge cells. We have seen how to add rows, how to add columns, and let us see if we desire now to delete a column. If we want to delete a column, let's add just a column now to the right here. With this column added to the right of our table, if we want to delete, just right click on the table, on the column, and you're going to see on the options that will appear, a delete column option will appear. On this delete column, if you click on it, it takes away the column. Alternatively, you can as well go to the layout tab. The layout tab that appears on your ribbon. Go to the rows and columns group. In the rows and column group, you're going to have the delete tool. This delete tool will permit you to as well delete the selected column that you have highlighted. That will permit you to delete that column. On the other hand, if you want to delete your rows, you're going to do and follow the same procedure to delete your rows. That is exactly how tables appear. We can as well work with borders. Remember that when you look at this table, you have borders, you have lines that are separating this table. I can highlight this entire table and I remove the borders. When I remove the borders, no one will be able to know whether I've used tables or not. You can now take your mouse pointer to the top left of your table. At the top left of your table, you have the table handle. This table handle, when you take your mouse to the table handle, your mouse pointer will give you a four-headed arrow that will permit you to grip the table. If you click and hold here, you'll be able to carry the table and move with it around. Look at how I'm carrying my table. I can move around with this table and place it anywhere I desire in my document. So that is the table handle. With the table handle, you'll be able to move around with the table. But if this time around, we don't want to carry our table and move around with it. I want to instead be able to format my table. I'll right click, therefore I'll take my mouse pointer to the top left of my table. I'll right click. When I right click there, I have various options and controls that appear. On these options and controls, I'm going to click on table properties. When I click on table properties, it's going to open the table properties dialog. On the table properties dialog, I want to remove all the borders. I'm now going to click on the borders and shading tab. This border and shading button. I'm going to click on the borders and shading button. The border and shading button is found towards the bottom right of the dialog that opens. Go ahead and click on that button. When you click on the button, it opens the borders and shading dialog. On the borders and shading dialog, go ahead and click none. If you click none and hit OK, then you hit OK again. Notice that the borders of your table disappears. When you print this document, there will be no lines and the lines would have gone away, but then your data will still be organized. This permits you to be able to control how your table appears when printed. We can hit the undo button and it brings back our border lines. That is how you can include or remove border lines. We can also add some styles to our borders and shading. You can make the lines to be double lines or triple lines. You can go ahead and even use dotted lines. So you have the style type. In these borders, in the borders tab here, you have those various types. If I take triple lines and hit OK, take note of the fact that we are now going to have triple lines that will appear. This will make our document look more complicated. Remember, we said when formatting your document, ensure to leave everything simple. Don't make anything look complicated and just enjoy working with very simple things. Now that said, we can hit the undo tool again, and with the undo tool, we come back to normal. We can as well apply styles to our table. What are styles? Styles permit you to be able to work with pre-formatted tables. tables that have already some formatting. Let's go ahead and check this out and see how it happens. I'm going to highlight my table. Again, I'll click on the table handle. When I click on the table handle, I go to the design tab. On the design tab, we have the table styles. In this table styles group, go ahead and experiment with the various table styles tools that are there. When you click on any of them, you realize that you have various styles that appear. When you click on any of these styles, you're going to have different appearance of your table. Now go ahead and experiment with all of them and see how they change the appearance of your table. Choose the one that you like, and you can use this drop down button here to click on it, and you have various styles. You can use this scroll bar here. With this scroll bar, you'll be able to move up and down. Go ahead and experiment with these various styles. You can choose a style that has a color that is appealing to your eyes. You can choose a style that is looking good to you. And when you choose a style, you see how your table changes. This is exactly what styles permit you to do. These are things that you can do manually, but then styles refers to pre-formatted tables that would just modify the layout of your table. You just click on any of these styles, it modifies the layout of your table, it gives your table some beauty, and it makes your table look different. Go ahead and experiment with the style, and remember that you can modify these style options. Right, that's it. Let's go ahead and see how to work with shapes. Remember that we said that we use shapes to add more emphasis to our document, and to add shapes to your document, you can go ahead to the insert tab. On the insert tab, go to the illustrations group. In the illustrations group, you're going to have the shapes tool. Click on the shape tool. When you click on the shapes tool, it's going to give you the shapes options, the various options that you can use. You're going to look at the option that looks good to you. If you want to draw any shape, you're going to choose it here. You can combine shapes together. You can join shapes to draw anything that looks quite good to you. Let us take, for example, I want to use this oval and draw a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is made up of a rectangle. With our rectangle, we're going to draw two ovals inside. Let's go ahead and see how to draw this. We're going to click on this rectangle. The rectangle tool is there. When you click on it, observe and see how my mouse pointer changes. When my mouse pointer changes to this cross head will now permit me to draw my rectangle. Now go ahead and click, hold and drag. Click, hold and drag means press your left mouse button, hold the mouse button down, then drag to the desired direction. When you drag to where you desire it to end, you now release. When I release, you realize that my rectangle is having a shading. This shading, we can modify it. We can change the color as well as we can remove the color. For you to format this shading, you can go ahead and right click, or you take the shape fill. The shape fill tool is found on the format tab. Remember that when you insert your shapes, a new tab will appear. This tab is known as the format tab. This format tab will permit you to have some more controls over your shape. Now go ahead to the shape styles group. In the shape styles group, click on shape fill. When you click on shape fill, you can now modify the fill of your shape. When I allow my mouse to rest on any of the colors, you see how the fill of my rectangle is changing. I can go ahead and select no fill to make sure that there is no fill, there is no color fill for my rectangle. Now I want to select an outline fill. An outline is how will the color, what will be the color of this outline, of these lines of my rectangle? This outline, I'm going to select black. When I select black, it gives me an outline black. You now see our rectangle comes together. We are now going to insert some oval shapes inside. I'll go ahead and insert an oval shape. When I click again on my shapes in the insert tab, on the illustrations, on the insert tabs in the illustrations group, I'll click on shapes. When I click on shapes, I can now take this oval. When I click on this oval, my mouse pointer again changes. It changes to this cross head. This cross head will permit me to draw a shape. I can now click, hold and drag to any direction that I desire. You now see my oval comes out. I'm going to repeat the process of removing the shading. When you click on that, you take no fill. We don't want any fill, but want a black outline for our shape. I'll click on the black outline for my shape. I'll repeat the process to have another oval. When I repeat the process and have another oval, again, I'll remove, ensure that there is no color and the outline is black. This oval If I click on any of these outlines, I'll now have the shapes handle. This shapes handle can permit me to resize. When I click hold on any of these handles, I can resize the shapes to the direction that I desire. This will permit me to gain more control over my shapes. I can now resize my shapes using these handles. I can resize my shape. I can carry my shape from one point to another. You now see we are able to create an intersection between two of us. I have intersection, and I can now add text or add writings to my drawing. Take note of the fact that for this to be, as you are seeing, both of us must not have any field. If we attempt and add any field to any of these ovals, take for example, if we add a white field, notice that the ovals are no longer the way they were before, and we will have difficulties working with our intersection. The intersection no longer appears the way it was, but then you're seeing that this oval is almost the same with this other oval, but this other oval does not have a field, while this oval here has a field. Universal set is now looking quite good. Our sets are looking also quite good. But now we need to give them names. We need to give one of them set A and give another one set B. How are we going to write a text here? Let's go ahead and see. We're going to make use again of our shapes. Take your mouse pointer to your insert tab. On the insert tab in the illustrations group, go ahead and click on shapes. When you click on shapes, go ahead and select text box. Text box is going to permit you to insert text wherever you like on your shapes. We click on text box. When I click on text box, I'm going to draw a small text box where it will permit me to be able to enter the letter A. Capital A representing the set A. When I can now carry and move with it as I desire. When I carry and put, take note of the fact that I have an outline shape for my text box. I also have a field for my text box. That is why my text box is covering my oval shape for my set A. I have to remove all of this such that only A sits at the top of this oval A. I'm going to click on the format tab. The format tab that appears when my text box containing A is highlighted, and I'll go up to the shape field. On the shape field, I'll remove the field. When I remove the field, I'll also remove the outline and make sure there is no line. Look at that. You see that my A is now sitting on that oval. It has no obstructions any longer. Let's undo and you see how far we have gone. Oh, look at that. It's not looking quite good. But then when we highlight it, then we go to the format tab. We make sure that there is no field. We also make sure that the outline, there is no outline. That looks quite good. And we can insert another. When we insert this text box, we call this other set B. This is set B. We go back to our insert onto the format tab. On the format tab, we remove the fields and we make sure that there is no field. When we do that, we notice that it looks quite good to us. We have our set A, we have our set B. We have drawn our Venn diagram, we have inserted our ovals, we have inserted both ovals and they are intersecting. We now have given the ovals names and we have given this other oval name. We now need to add text for set A, set B, and the intersection mark. We are going to also use text box. When we are going to use text boxes, we'll insert a text box here. This will permit us now to put the number that corresponds to set A. Again, when we do that, we go back to our format tab in the shapes styles group and we remove the various fields and we will be able to insert our data wherever we desire to insert it. And again, there is another issue which we need to do with our shapes. We always need to be able that at the end of the day, our shapes are grouped. They are moving together. This particular Venn diagram is made up of different shapes. It's made up of this rectangle. It's made up of this oval, this other oval, this text box, and this other text box. We need to make sure that all of them are one and they are moving together. If I want to carry any of them, if I carry this rectangle, look at what happens. My rectangle goes away and the other ones are left on their own. That is not good. We need to make sure that we are able to carry them together. How do we do that? You need to select all these shapes. To select all these shapes, we are going to go to the Home tab. On the Home tab, we are going to click on the Select tool. The Select tool is found on the Editing group on the Home tab. In the editing group on the home tab, let's click on select. When you click on select, we're going to take select objects. When I click on select object, notice that my mouse pointer now remains stiff. I can now click, hold, and drag in the direction that I desire to select the objects. Remember, you must first of all go to the home tab in the editing group, click on select, and then take select object. Only when this your select object tool is highlighted that can you click and drag to select objects. When we have highlighted all our objects, we are now going to go ahead and right click on the highlighted objects. Look at how all the objects, the individual objects, had its boundaries, had its handles highlighted. Now let's go ahead and click on group. Then we'll click on group. Once we have grouped these objects, they now move as one. We can now carry them and they become one object. If we want now to format it, we can format all the objects as one. If we go now to the format tool, if we add a shape fill, it will add for all the objects. If we add anything, if we add an outline fill, it will add for all the objects. That is because we have now grouped the objects and they are one.